engine screamed like it was begging for mercy. Daniel froze for a split second, wrench still in his hand, eyes locked on the trembling turbine. He had heard that sound before, not in this dusty hangar, not in this forgotten corner of the airfield, but years ago in a place he tried every day to forget. A place where one wrong sound meant the difference between life and death. "Shut it down," he shouted, his voice cutting through the roar. The Billionaire's pilot hesitated, but only for a second before pulling the lever. The engine powered down with a violent shudder, leaving behind a silence so heavy it felt like the world itself had stopped breathing. Daniel exhaled slowly. His heart was racing. He knew something everyone else in that hangar didn't. That jet should never have been running. Daniel Carter wasn't supposed to be here. 5 years ago, he had been one of the best aviation mechanics in the military. Precise, calm, trusted. The kind of man people relied on when things went wrong. But one mistake, one tiny overlooked detail had cost lives. It wasn't entirely his fault, but guilt doesn't care about facts. He walked away from everything after that now. He worked in a broken-down hangar on the edge of a small airstrip, fixing rusted engines and patching up planes that most people had already given up on. The pay was barely enough. The work was constant. But it kept his hands busy, and his mind just quiet enough to survive. Until the day Ethan Brooks arrived. Ethan Brooks didn't walk into places. He owned them the moment he stepped inside. Tall, sharp suit, eyes that had never known hesitation. He was the kind of billionaire people read about but never expected to meet. His private jet had made an emergency landing due to minor engine instability. Daniel almost laughed when he first heard that. He took one look at the aircraft, a sleek gleaming machine worth more than everything in the hangar combined, and immediately knew this wasn't minor. Not even close. The pilot Mark crossed his arms. "Just fix what's necessary. Mr. Brooks has a meeting in 6 hours. Didn't respond right away. He walked slowly around the engine, listening, observing, feeling the machine like it was alive. Then he said quietly, "If this plane takes off without a full repair, it won't land again." The hangar went silent. Ethan stepped forward, studying him. "That's a bold claim," met his gaze. "It's not a claim, it's a fact." Tension in the room was suffocating. Ethan wasn't used to being told no. Not by anyone, especially not by a mechanic in oil-stained clothes. "How long?" Ethan asked. 2 days, Daniel replied. "I have 6 hours. Then you need a different plane." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Do you know who I am?" Daniel didn't blink. "Yes." "Do you know what happens when an engine like this fails midair?" That question hit harder than anything else. For the first time, Ethan hesitated. Against every instinct, Ethan agreed to wait, but it wasn't easy. The parts needed weren't available locally. Daniel had to improvise, rebuild, and re-engineer sections of the engine using limited tools and scraps most mechanics wouldn't dare touch. Every step was a risk. Every decision carried weight. And then the storm came. Heavy rain pounded against the hangar roof, flooding parts of the floor. Power flickered, tools failed. Time slipped away. Mark grew impatient. "This is ridiculous. We could have been halfway to New York by now." Didn't respond. He was too focused, hands steady even as exhaustion crept in. Ethan watched him quietly. There was something different about this man. No arrogance, no showmanship, just relentless focus and something deeper, pain maybe, or purpose. Late into the night, Daniel finally paused. His hands were shaking. He stared at the engine, memories flooding back, sirens, smoke, screams. The moment everything went wrong years ago. The moment he lost trust in himself. "What if I miss something again?" he whispered, almost to himself. Ethan heard it. "Then don't," Ethan said simply. Daniel looked at him, frustration flashing. "It's not that easy." Stepped closer. "No, it's not, but running from it doesn't make it easier either." Those words hit harder than any accusation ever could. For years, Daniel had been running from that mistake, from responsibility, from himself. Maybe it was time to stop. The next morning, the storm had passed. The air was still. Quiet, Daniel stood before the jet, tools in hand, heart steady for the first time in years. "Let's finish this," he said. Hours later, the engine roared to life again. But this time it was different, smooth, controlled, strong. Daniel listened carefully. No scream, no warning, just power. He nodded. "It's ready." Turned to him. "Come with us." Blinked. "What?" "I want you on my team, full-time. Name your price." Shook his head immediately. "I don't belong in your world." Smiled slightly. You don't belong here either, stretched between them. You didn't just fix my jet, Ethan continued. You saved everyone who will ever fly in it, that matters. Looked at the plane, then at his worn-out hands. For the first time in years, he didn't see failure, he saw skill, experience, value, maybe even redemption. Weeks later, Daniel stood in a brand new hangar, clean, modern, alive with possibility. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was leading a team, training young mechanics, teaching them not just how to repair engines, but how to trust themselves even after failure. Ethan visited occasionally, always with the same quiet respect. You changed everything that day, Ethan told him once. Daniel shook his head. No, I just stopped running. The truth is, life doesn't break people because they fail. It breaks them when they believe failure is the end. But sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one chance, one decision to face the fear instead of running from it. And that's when everything changes. Because redemption isn't given. It's rebuilt, piece by piece, just like a broken engine.